It's a wild world out there, but some worlds are even wilder. Hi, I'm Tyler Habney, and you're listening to Dungeons and Dystopias. Thank you for listening. Hello, and welcome to Dungeons and Dystopias. I am your host, Tyler Habney. I have hosted over 200 combined games of Dungeons and Dragons and Cyberpunk RED. And today I have the return of one of my favorite guests, Mr. Jordan Kraft.
Oh, I'm a favorite guest. I feel so honored.
You are a favorate guest
Thank you.
out of the two I've had so far. You're top
Right.
two.
Well, that's definitely in the top then. All right. I'm at least top 3, so I'll take it.
We'll take it. So we are going to today. We're kind of celebrating the release of this should be the 20th overall episode of the podcast.
I believe it is, yeah.
Including the introduction. So this is episode number 20. We're doing pretty great.
Yeah.
We're going to continue on our little sort of series I was doing on Rocker Boys, or on the classes of Cyberpunk RED. And I brought Jordan in today because he is an expert on the next class we're going to talk about, the next role.
I think so. Yeah.
We're going to be discussing today the tech role in Cyberpunk RED and how you can use that to sort of, I guess, work the system in your advantage.
You could call it that. I think it's taking creative liberties, you know? Sometimes you just want to do your own thing, and sometimes it doesn't quite fit within the rules, and you realize that you want to try something different, and tech is the perfect role to do that, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Tech, you can really get creative with tech. It's the limits to tech is really just about how creative you can really get with it.
Yeah.
And sort of what kind of ways you can utilize it to shape your character's life, as we've seen you do with a couple of people.
Absolutely.
Sievert, of course, being a character we've talked about for an extensive length of time.
Right.
He was a tech, and he wound up building some pretty crazy things.
He absolutely did. He got up to some shenanigans, and well, even before then, I believe I'm trying to remember what other tech upgrades he was involved with. I believe one of his first missions was actually he used his tech ability to fabricate disguises for the group he was working with to sort of do a false flag operation to sort of frame something on someone else and get that whatever gang we were framing at the time, I think it was Maelstrom, into a world of hurt against the Reckoners. I believe it was.
And we did talk about that in the Sievert episode.
Yeah.
We briefly discussed that.
For long-time listeners, of course, yes.
For long-time listeners. I think let's get into tech here. So we should talk first and foremost, obviously, as I did last time, I guess sort of about the mechanics of mech. And how things level up for them, because it is a bit different from Rocker Boy.
Yeah.
Where Rocker Boy has stages you basically go through as you level up. This one is a lot more freeform.
It absolutely is. Tech gives a lot of freedom in how you want to build your tech, how you want them to be specialized, where you want to put your points, and how that can be used in different situations. So
right.
Yeah.
So the basic way it works is you have 4 different things you can put a point into. You get 2 points every time you level up.
Yep.
So when you start at tech, or assuming you're starting at tech rank 4, you have 8 points at the begining.
Yeah. To
put within these 4 different windows. And these 4 windows are field expertise, upgrade expertise, fabrication, and invention.
Yes.
So we'll kind of go over what each of those 4 kind of include.
Yeah.
So we'll start with field expertise. This one is, I'd say it's kind of like the more all-around option.
Yeah, it's very basic, but also very useful in important moments, for sure.
One thing it allows you to do is repair armor.
Yes, it allows you to jury rig your armor together. So if you've been in a combat and everybody's armor has taken some damage, you can take an action, or I believe it is take an action, yes, and fully repair an armor up to its full SP and HP if you're doing a vehicle as well, I believe. And then it holds that for 10 minutes. It has its full HP again. And then you can go through another series of combats, and everybody has their full armor again, and then you can jury rig it, and then it has to be repaired, and then it can be jury rigged again. So.
Yeah. So really, honestly, that's just one thing field expertise can do.
Oh yeah, it is very adaptable.
It is extremely adaptable. Field expertise is really good for just repair in general in combat. So next up, we're going to talk about upgrade expertise.
Yes.
And what upgrade does. So upgrade expertise, I'd say this is, along with invention, probably the most free form you can get.
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Upgrade and invention are both kind of the areas where tech becomes a lot more game of what can you come up with and what can you and your DM agree on.
Right.
Yeah.
And upgrade is absolutely all about whether or not you and your DM can agree on something, because effectively upgrade is an ability that allows you to put a custom upgrade on really anything.
Yep.
If you think about it, there's a list of ones that they suggest and ones that are most common.
Yep.
You can increase an item's stopping power by 1 without inducing any penalties. You can lower the humanity loss on a piece of cyberware by 1d6. You can increase the number of upgrade slots or modification slots on a weapon or a piece of cyberware. You can make something concealable that wasn't concealable before.
Yep.
There's just so much stuff you can do with upgrades, and those don't even cover some of the other ones we've done that have been a bit crazier.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've come up with some very crazy upgrade expertise abilities. I think we started discussing some things about like white phosphorus weapons, perhaps some like special ammunition, increased incendiary that deals more. Instead of being traditionally on fire, instead you're seriously on fire, I believe is the term.
It increases the amount of on damage or fire damage that they take per turn if they don't put it out.
Yeah, so we have discussed that. I never really implemented that, but certainly discussions happened about it. I don't think I ever made the ammunition, tragically.
Not quite, not yet. But that is obviously something we have in the back burner. Now, upgrading an item is pretty fun. Basically, general idea is you just roll your tech ability plus however many points you have in upgrade.
Yep.
And if that beats a certain DV that is set by the item's how expensive the item is.
Yeah.
If that beats that DV, congratulations, you have an item or the upgrade. However, if you fail the check, halfway through creation of the upgrade, your character pretty much realizes this isn't going to work. Yeah. So they have to start all over from scratch. Good news is the materials from your upgrade are not injured, so you can reuse them. You don't have to pay for materials over again.
Yeah. So it's really just more of a time sink, and you can kind of throw your head at the wall over and over again until you finally get it to work, you know?
Yeah, because if you get a really crazy upgrade, it can take some time to actually build it and get it right. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, if you've got
a really cool system.
You've got a really nice weapon that you're looking to upgrade. It's going to take a while to get it upgrade correctly and for you to make that roll, but when you do, it'll be worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The next one, this one is fun. Fabrication. So this one's a little less creativity involved, but it's still, I'd say, pretty useful when we consider how we've seen it utilized in my campaign.
Yeah. There's some things I've worked with the idea of, and there's some interesting stuff that you can get up to with Fabricate.
Absolutely, and we can talk a bit about how you've used that in a second. But fabrication is, well, it's what it says on the tin.
Yep.
If there's an item out there in the cyberpunk world that your character wants to make themselves, well, guess what? You can.
Yep.
You would just need the blueprints and materials that are one price category lower than the item being fabricated. So, like, let's say I'm gonna try to build a $10,000 item. I believe the materials I need would be 5,000 or 7,500 in total, but I would not need the full 10,000.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, you can make it on the cheap.
Yeah. And going back to your character Tyne, we learned how cheap you can get when we started talking about the weapons, the Molotovs that came out in Black Chrome Plus.
Yes.
I believe they're $10.
Yeah. So being only $10, if you look at the tech rollability and the different levels of cost and DVs, that would put the Molotov cocktails in the cheapest category, I believe.
That was €5 to make a single Molotov cocktail.
Right.
And considering the average pay for a job of normal difficulty is €1,000, let's say Jordan, for whatever reason, decides to get kooky one day and is like, hey, I'm going to spend my whole paycheck and my whole character's next week on making Molotovs.
Right.
Which is something he has done.
I certainly have. Not only is it €5, I believe each one at that point only takes an hour to make.
Yes.
To
so
fabricate.
Overall, 200 hours for an entire €1,000 worth of Molotovs. That's 200 Molotovs.
Yep. So enough to arm a small militia.
Yes. And all it takes is €1,000, and now you've armed everyone in your sort of small gang with at least one or two Molotovs.
Yeah.
Of course, the item itself does have a risk of exploding every time somebody is shot. So
Yes.
you have to be a bit careful with who you equip with a Molotov.
Ups and downs. But, I mean, when you're working in a gang and you already have foot soldiers at your disposal, some gangs in Night City obviously just throw numbers at a situation until eventually everyone's dead. Like, they'll throw bodies at something.
Yeah, looking at you, Maelstrom.
Right. So in that case, some money being spent to better equip them so they have a better chance of taking someone else out. If they're going to die anyway, who cares if they get lit on fire?
Honestly, that's fair. Welcome to Night City.
Welcome to Night City.
And then our last one we're going to talk about here, and this one is technically, I guess, the most involved as well. But
absolutely.
Definitely,
yes.
I'd say even more creativity than the upgrades.
Right.
Invention,
yes.
This is where you can create your own items.
Yeah. This has been a great source of... obviously, I've talked about in a previous podcast, I am a mechanical engineering student, so sometimes there's an idea that I'll come up with, and sometimes it takes some creativity to kind of justify it to Tyler of how it works in universe. I've even had to help other players in our campaign sort of come up with, well, here's how you could do this,
right.
So
it's always fun to hear about what my tech characters or players are coming up with.
Yeah.
The first invention I got was a cyberware that when it acted as a tripod, and when someone was using a sniper rifle, it would increase their aim because they had this tripod that they were using. And then you've got plenty of experience with it.
Yeah. So there's another player that we play with who has done a lot of upgrades with sort of electrifying different items. They've had a lot of fun with that, sort of making electrified knuckles, for example. If you've played, you remember Call of Duty Black Ops 2 Galvin Knuckles? Those. He made those. And my character, my tech, and this character met in a couple of sessions, and Tyne, obviously, the character that they met, has a lot of fabrication expertise. And so they are very good at making things, but not so good at inventing them. Meanwhile, this other player character, they're good at inventing things, but not good at fabricating them. So we found a sort of cooperative. We sort of formed a little business and decided it would be better if we worked together, where one of them is sort of the ideas guy and one of them is sort of the put it all together.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's worked out pretty well, I'd say.
We made a gun.
And you did. It was the TNA long shot. TNC long shot.
Yes.
TNA is something else.
Yeah.
The TNC long shot.
TNC long shot.
But yeah, so the TNC Longshot, it really was just it's a pistol with an assault rifle
Range
table.
Yeah.
That's really all it was, but it's good for sniping and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, my character Tyne is mainly a pistol user, so I didn't even come up with the idea. I think it was Colors, the other player character, who came up with it. But when it kind of got built, I realized this is actually really good for Tyne, because there's so many circumstances where you're in a long-range engagement and all you've got is a pistol that's only good out to 12 meters, and then the DV becomes 20. And that's hard to hit, especially for a tech character where I've put points into more tech abilities and not so much my gunfighting. So having a gun that lowers the DV just is so much easier to use in long-range engagements.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the TNC Longshot, consider putting that in your Cyberpunk game today.
Yeah.
So we are just about here towards the end. That's pretty much it in terms of the tech class. Genuinely, if for creative or smart people, tech is just a really good class, just really good role. We're going to get now into our metaphorical monster of the week.
Yep.
And this metaphorical monster of the week is all about social media. And getting those likes and those clicks and all that engagement.
Yep.
You know,
Ring the bell.
we know all about that here. But today we're going to be talking about the social media giant in the Cyberpunk universe, Ziggurat.
Yes.
Now, Jordan, you have interfaced with Ziggurat a few times.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I did run an actual Ziggurat sort of themed campaign a while ago, which I don't think you had much involvement in.
I was not very involved with. I sort of learned about it after the fact more than anything.
Yeah.
I kind of was like, oh, there was a lot of things that played out because of that campaign, from what I know.
Yes.
Player characters were assassinated. A lot of crazy things developed.
Yeah. So Ziggurat, I do have quite a bit of experience with this particular company.
Yes.
Ziggurat is basically the inventors of something called CityNets. So in the Cyberpunk lore, the global net went down in 2023 during the Fourth Corporate War.
Right.
It got nuked by a guy named Raish Bartmoss, who I've talked about here before. So in the 2030s, Ziggurat comes around with something called a CityNet, where it's basically extremely limited internets that are only accessible within a certain city. WorldSat will then develop a tool that helps you connect to other CityNets, but that isn't for some time.
Yeah.
Ziggurat basically then took this hold on the CityNets and created a service called The Garden.
Yes.
Which The Garden is basically TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all of that combined into one platform.
Yeah.
It's like mega MySpace.
Mega MySpace. Yeah.
So basically, they have a stranglehold on a lot of people's data because people will just post whatever to The Garden.
Right.
So a lot of people, it's kind of a question of, well, what are they doing with that data, Jordan?
That's a very good question. I mean, same thing as current companies,
Same. We would think same thing, but this is Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about the guy in charge of Ziggurat. His name is UR. So UR is I guess a genderless being of sorts.
Yeah.
They're mostly into body modification, and in fact, it's very uncommon to see them the same way twice.
Great.
So generally, they actually will change their whole body to accommodate whatever style they want to go on that that at that time.
Yeah.
UR is someone whose entire history is steeped in mystery.
Yes.
Nobody knows where UR came from. Nobody even really knows too much about UR. But what we do know about UR is that he has a very strangely acclaimed close relationship with Raish Bartmoss.
Yes.
Which is, to me, unexplainable. I mean, we don't know too much about this guy. How would he know Raish Bartmoss?
Right.
Who knows? Obviously, I have my theories. My campaign did, in fact, try to answer that question, but I think that's really for everyone else to kind of dwell on and consider. Who is UR? What are they doing with all this stuff? And last but not least, why does Ziggurat get shut down in the 2050s by Netwatch and have all of their files made confidential? Why do you think that is, Jordan?
I don't know. Lots of questions.
Lots of questions around Ziggurat. A lot of answers if you look deep enough.
Yeah, and I think if you're willing to connect some dots and make some assumptions along the way, I think you can come up with your own narrative and maybe run a campaign similar to how Tyler has.
Maybe so. And your players will get assassinated for knowing the truth. But that is going to be it for us today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in, Jordan.
Thank you.
And yeah, please come in next week where we're going to talk a bit more about Dungeons and Dragons. And yeah, I think generally pretty good episode today. I'm really happy with it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for listening. And thank you for coming in.
Glad to be here.